All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the video. Obviously, there are spoilers ahead. So, my name is Travis Conover. I'm a filmmaker and an actor, have been for over a decade now. I've written about 7 or 8 feature films at this point. I'm producing 2 of them currently, and I have a film that just released this month. So, I'm pretty qualified to do this, and I saw Gladiator 2 recently with a couple friends, and I wanted to fix some issues, some really glaring issues that I saw. And I know I did a review of this a couple days ago. If you didn't see the review of the movie, go check it out before you see this video. And let's dive into the timeline of Gladiator 2 and how I think they could actually just recut most of what they have and reshoot very little and make this a great movie as opposed to a very mid movie. About a 5 out of 10. Now, I know this is not going to happen. I know they're not going to do this, but let's talk about how we could fix this timeline just from a screenwriter's perspective. So right here, we're looking at a very rough outline of the movie, and I'm going to read it off to you real quick here. So first thing we do is we meet Hanno, who ends up being Lucius. If you remember the first Gladiator, when we go back to the palace in Rome, and Commodus is now the emperor, we meet his nephew, Lucius, who's Priscilla's son. And Priscilla is Commodus's sister. So in this movie, that little boy, Lucius, ends up being Hanno. But we find that out about 45 minutes into the film, which I think is one of the biggest mistakes. So let's go through here. Hanno is Lucius. Lucius is Hanno, just so you know. We just don't know he's Lucius until about 45 minutes in. So first thing we do is we meet Hanno and his wife. This happens for about, I don't know, maybe 2-3 minutes, 5 minutes most. We kind of meet them. They don't really say much to each other, like 1 or 2 words back and forth. Rome attacks Numidia, which is where Hanno has been hiding and creating a new life for himself. Hanno's wife dies during the battle, like right away, first thing in the movie. Hanno's captured and taken to fight. Hanno fights some baboons for God knows what reason. I don't know why he couldn't fight humans. A baboon in real life would rip you to shreds. You'd never have a chance. Stupid. Hanno's bought by Denzel Washington's character. I'm not even going to call the character by the character's name because everyone knows Denzel better. And also, he spoke through the whole movie with a Brooklyn accent, or at least 90% of the movie a Brooklyn accent. Sometimes he tried to do a Roman accent. It was bad. So I'm just going to call him Denzel because that's how everybody knows him. Hanno fights great. People start to fall in love with him. He doesn't really do anything spectacular other than throw some dirt in a rhino's face, and the rhino runs into a wall and he gets blasted like 20 feet away. Everyone saw it in the trailers. Hanno is taken to Rome because he's a good fighter. Hanno fights for the emperor. So basically they go into a special party. Hanno has to fight the emperor's champion, or one of the champions of the people that has the ear of the emperor. They fight. Hanno beats him. And then at the end of it, he says a poem. And Priscilla sees that he says this poem. Now, Priscilla is Lucius's mom, and Hanno is Lucius. So Priscilla's like, my boy. You know, this kind of thing, right? Or someone tells her that he says what he said at the fight, and she thinks, oh my gosh, maybe this is Lucius because it's written on his wall when he was a little boy. And I used to say it to him, even though that's never been established in the world before. It's fine, whatever. We'll let this one slide. So he says the stupid poem, and it's really dumb. It's like a kind of like a rhyming thing. We find out he's Lucius. Okay, big deal. Lucius, but this happens this is like 40 minutes into the film, y'all. Like, we've seen a lot, and then we're like, oh my God, it's Lucius. It's supposed to be this big thing. But it's really just not. It wasn't for me. Maybe it was for some other people, but it wasn't for me. I kind of already knew it. Lucius meets with his mom. So she comes to see him, and he's all mad at her. He goes, that man is dead. I don't know who you're talking about. I'm not Lucius. Yes, you are. Some more ridiculous fights happen. Rhino, sharks, they flood the Colosseum, which could have happened, before they build the bottom layers of the Colosseum. However, we know that the bottom layers exist because they showed it in the first Gladiator movie, and this is 16 years later. So not possible. The general tries to revolt, right? So the general was the main motivation for Hanno to go fight as a gladiator, because he wanted to kill the general, because the general had his wife killed during the battle in the first 5 minutes. So his motivation this whole time is like, for Denzel, he's like, I want to kill the general, which is basically what Russell Crowe's character in the first Gladiator said. He said, I want to, see the Emperor face to face, aka so that I can kill the Emperor. Same thing. He goes, I want to meet the general face to face and kill him. Annoying. General tries to revolt and gets caught. Turns out nobody likes these emperors. Another major plot hole in this movie is that the emperors were never established of how they came and took place. At the end of the first Gladiator movie, we see that Commodus and Maximus are both dead. So how, when Rome becomes a republic again, can you tell me that all of a sudden these two emperors ride into town and just take over Rome? Like, it's just theirs now? So that's never explained, and it's really, it doesn't make sense. So Denzel becomes friends with these really stupid emperors, and I mean stupid, literally. One of them is actually like being poisoned, has an infection in his testicle, and he's going retarded. Literally, he's going crazy. The general is killed after he's caught. He's thrown into the Colosseum, and he has to fight Lucius. And Lucius, who's wanted to kill him the entire movie, all of a sudden is like, oh, I don't like the emperors more. The emperors are worse than the guy that killed my wife. So I'm going to stick it to the emperors and not kill the general because he's married to my mom, who I hated 5 minutes ago. Bro, it's weird. It's a weird movie. So Lucius doesn't kill him. The emperors have their archers shoot an arrow into his back. He gets shot with like 10 arrows and he, dies, obviously. And then because of that, Lucius and the other gladiators decide to revolt. They lead a weak revolt. Denzel is just trying to become emperor. He's just a bad dude for some reason, because he was a slave at one time and now he's a free man with a ton of money. He's all mad at everybody. So he kind of tries to become the emperor. He ends up killing them both or having them both killed. And then Lucius leads the revolt, ends up riding outside at the very end, and they're under this big gate. And then a 65-year-old flabby Denzel fights a gladiator at the top of his game instead of just telling his army to do it. And Lucius literally rides past Denzel's entire army, by the way, and he runs Rome now. So God knows how that could just happen in one day. But he rides his horse past all of his soldiers, every one of them, all the way down outside of the city gates of Rome, fights Denzel in front of an army that kind of used to belong to Lucius's dad, Maximus, and now belongs to his dead mom's husband. It's just a weird story, y'all, and there's so many holes, it's crazy. So you're probably thinking to yourself, okay, this guy hates this movie. It was mid. It was mid at best. But it could have been good. It probably could have been a 7 or 8 out of 10, and I'm going to show you how. A lot of things we're going to get rid of here. But here's our timeline. It goes left to right, and then down to the second row, left to right, down to the second row. I know it's not a perfect representation, so I apologize. But here's how I would have made the movie different. I would have... Let's take as many of these as we can. I would have started out by finding out that this guy is Lucius. We find out he's Lucius. Okay? That's how you start the movie. I think you start right where, and I may not use this combo on board, I'm going to start right out where the old gladiator left off. Commodus, Maximus, dead on the ground, in the Colosseum, epic fight. You could have even started with the fight, right? And you could have just used the old footage. They start the fight, and then we cut to wide. The soldiers are taking their bodies away, and Priscilla ushers Lucius off because she's afraid that for some reason, because he's the heir to the throne, that the people are going to revolt and he's going to be in trouble for some reason. That doesn't make sense, but if they want to go with that, they can go with that. So Hanno, right? I don't even have it in here because it wasn't even in the story. So what we're going to do is Hanno at this point, or Lucius, he doesn't never has to be Hanno now. Lucius basically, we see him build a life for himself, right? He learns how to fight. He learns how to farm. He builds his own home. He finds a wife. He starts a family. So now we're 20, 30 minutes into the film, and we've fallen in love with this guy. The biggest problem with the Gladiator 2 the way it is right now is we don't care. I didn't care about any of the characters. I didn't care about Hanno. When he became Lucius, I didn't care very much more. I did not care about the general's role, because after he does something really bad, then we find out that he's his mother's husband, right? So he's his stepfather or father-in-law, whatever you want to call it. So they just did it backwards, y'all. They would do something bad with the character and then try to make you like him afterwards. It's like, no, that's not how it works. So what we should have done is Lucius runs away, he builds a life, finds a wife, has kids, you fall in love with them. Then Rome comes and attacks. Rome ends up killing his family as they come and attack. They pillage, they rape, they do what they do, right? As a tyrannical society. Now, in the ruins of it, he kills a bunch of Romans. It's a huge epic battle. That's all fine with me. And then after that, he's like, I'm going to go kill the man who ordered them to kill my wife. So he tries to sneak into Rome, infiltrate, kill the emperor. Obviously, he gets caught because one man can't sneak into Rome and kill the emperor. He gets caught. He gets beaten badly, nearly to death. They dump him in a gutter, right? They throw him in a ditch somewhere. Someone finds him, nurses him back to health, or he gets bought by a slaver for a really cheap price because he's so beat up. That slaver brings him into the gladiatorial games. Boom, boom, boom. Next thing you know, he wins a couple fights. Everybody starts to fall in love with the underdog. He was never really the underdog, y'all. So he becomes the underdog story, right? This is the hero's journey into becoming great again. And then at the very, and then he goes to Rome. Then they find out who he is. They try to kill him. He revolts. Bing, bam, boom. They kill the bad guys. Good guy wins. Okay? So that's kind of basically just the story of the original Gladiator, which was far better. But they tried to copy it here. They just did it in a really poor fashion. What they could have done is rehash the story with a new character, but essentially a very similar... we would have cared about the characters if they had done it this way. If we actually saw him build a life, if we saw him build a family, we would have loved those characters. We would have cared about them. Then when the wife dies, we would have actually really felt terrible. And we would have sympathized. Man, this guy's got a right and a reason to go. And then he goes on his own volition. In this story, he doesn't even go to Rome in his own volition. He gets drugged there, and he doesn't want to be there. So we're like, okay, if he doesn't want to be there, I don't really want to be there either. In the old story, Maximus wanted to be there because he wanted to stare the king in the face and kill him. And then he got his chance to do that, didn't he? So that was what's so great about the old Gladiator, is his motives. We could ride with him the whole time. In this movie, you're kind of just like, he's mad at his mom. He's mad at Denzel for a little while. He's mad at the general for a little while. And then he's mad at the emperors for a little while. And then he's mad at Denzel again. It's all over the place. His motives are never clear. So if we clear up his motives, right, starting kind of where the movie was in about 45 minutes in, the way in its current state, and then we had walked our way through from there on to him trying to take revenge. Revenge plots are always much sweeter. And obviously, if I took a little more time, I could weave a really cool revenge plot. But I think that template that I just gave is far more compelling than the current one. And I think that would have fixed Gladiator, probably made it a solid 7 or 8 out of 10. This movie just can't be a 10 out of 10. It's never going to be the old Gladiator. It's already been done before. So this movie didn't need to exist, in my opinion. It was one that I wouldn't even see for a second time. And I especially wouldn't pay to see it. Maybe if it's free and somebody hasn't seen it and they invite me over to their house, hey, you want to watch a movie? And then they pick Gladiator 2, I'd be like, I guess so. But it's mid. It's super mid, y'all. It might be interesting to see someone recut this, right? You could actually possibly recut this to be a better movie. if you just resequence the scenes that exist. But anyway, we're 15 minutes into this thing, so I'm going to jump off here. But that's how I would fix Gladiator 2. I think it's actually fairly simple. You just got to resequence the scenes, create some characters, or create some scenarios where we love these characters before they die, instead of just killing them off before we even know who they are. And, give him a legitimate reason to go to Rome and to take revenge, as opposed to just him being forced to do it, right? So that way we can be on board with the hero, and we can really hate the enemy. At this point, we didn't really care about anybody. That's the biggest problem. So that's how I'd fix it. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Make sure you slap a like on this video, and we'll see you next time.